the truth is that it's never too soon to be planning for your retirement lifestyle, really. So often it's feast or famine when you're working as independently. And so this is why I wanted to have this, is to start this discussion and just to get some ideas going on. And I want to introduce Amanda and Megan, who are here from Northwestern Mutual. And did I say that right? Northwestern. I'm working with a company, Northeastern, too. So whatever. Anyway, Northwestern, thank you. So thank you for joining us. And I'm super excited to have you here with us to talk about this really important topic. And if you could just take a moment and just give a little background, introduce yourself and give a little background on you, and we'd really appreciate that. So let's just start. Amanda, go ahead.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much for that introduction, Tasha. Like she said, my name is Amanda, and I'm actually all the way in Lexington, Kentucky, so pretty much all the way across from the United States. It's currently 9 o'clock here right now, but so happy to be here, and just want to thank Tasha again for allowing us this opportunity to come speak with you and just impart, hopefully, some helpful information on things you can do now or down the road for retirement. My background is in media communications with a minor in business. My emphasis was producing. I really wanted to be a producer. I love watching and helping a director bring their story and their idea to life. And I think that has kind of transferred over into this job I have now as a financial planner with Northwestern Mutual. I love watching people's plans come to life and just see how their life changes and grows. So that was my background and emphasis. You can find me on IMDb. I've worked on a couple of feature-length projects on Amazon and things like that. So that's a little bit about me. I'll go ahead and pass it over to Megan and let her introduce herself to you all before we get started.
Hi, so I'm Megan, and I run an all-female financial planning team, and we're actually here in Pennsylvania, so whole way on the East Coast. So we spend a lot of time at the beach, but that season's about over now for us. But outside of that, I predominantly work with women who are contract employees or self-employed, or business owners, because the planning is so much more unique than somebody who's a typical W-2, and I love the puzzle of it. So I found a space where I could give women a space to ask any question they wanted as many times as they need it, and it was a space where there's no judgment, all understanding, all explanation. And I just found a space where I was just like, oh, this is not happening in this world. I'm gonna make this space then. So not only are we a little bit of a unicorn being all female, but then I would say our clients are predominantly 90% women. I joke, if I work with a man, it's probably because his wife's my client. That's a little bit about me.
Thank you. Thank you. So the first thing, we were talking a little bit about a movie that you had watched over the weekend, and I wanted to just ask you about it because I haven't seen it. Can you tell me the name of it again?
Sure. I'm so sorry. Like my brain is blanking on the title, but it's a Netflix documentary with Gina Davis and a lot of other female actresses, directors.
It's called This Changes Everything.
This Changes Everything. There you go. And I didn't know. So in my world, I'm super used to just being like the only woman in the room. And that's pretty common for my space. And Northwestern Mutual has made a big effort to to have more diversity in their hiring. Right. And so basically they took all this time to take down all the data down to like children's movies and how much voice actors got that were women and how many female directors there were. And the part that really caught my eye was that FX made a huge pivot in like 12 months and changed from having, I think it was 18% female directors to having 51% female directors in a matter of a year. So the industry is very much so like, if FX can do it, you all can do it. So I didn't know until I saw this documentary how still old boys club it was for you guys. It's not fun, and I'm sure if it's old boys club, when it comes to the jobs, it's probably super old boys club to with once you have the job, now what?
Right. Amanda, your thoughts about it?
Yes. So it was, having worked in the industry a little bit, it's things that I saw. There is a huge disparity between female workers in that space. And I really took to just seeing the actress side of it, or where one girl made a huge impactful statement. She was, and I forget the actress's name, but she was basically, they required her to put stuffing in her push-up bra when she was 16. And she said,
Chloe Moretz something. It's 3 names.
Yes, that's who it is. And that's when she realized that she wasn't an actor, she was an actress. She was just there as, I guess, the sex symbol, even though she was 16. And it just breaks my heart when I see that, because they're already being taught at a young age that in order for you to be anything, you have to fit this certain mold to look through the men's lens, the male camera operator's lens, the male director's lens. You have to be this certain way. And it was just really encouraging to see these group of women stand up and say, no, we're not going to do this. Reese Witherspoon started her own company and is doing a bunch of her own projects. The ACLU now has a case against, I believe it's the Directors Guild of America. I just think that's awesome. And whereas I'm not in the industry anymore, I want to support these women. And this is what I feel my place is, to support these women just on a financial basis, where they don't have to worry, and let them and help them, be behind them to help in this fight against inequality. So I have a lot of thoughts. Love the movie. It made me really excited and ready to, I guess, get on my soapbox and start screaming to the world that we don't need this gender inequality anymore. I don't know. I'm all fired up and ready to go.
That's right. So Amanda, tell me a little bit about why you think it's so like we really connected when we first started talking about this, because about women who are working as independent contractors, and what's the personal aspect for you about why you want to bring this kind of knowledge about retirement and about proper financial planning to women who are working in the gig economy?
Yes, I think there's a bunch of different reasons. One, I think I mentioned earlier briefly that I lost my job last year because of COVID. And when that happened, I just realized I don't have anything in place set up for me to experience something like that. It was unexpected. I didn't expect it. It was because of a global pandemic, but I didn't have anything, no safety net, nothing to fall back on. And so that was what I kind of call my wake up moment, realizing that, oh my goodness, I don't have anything and I need to plan. Another reason I just love working with these women, it kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier, that when you're on set working these jobs, you're working 12, 15, 18-hour days, and there's no rhyme or reason to the schedule. If there's a night scene, you're shooting from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. when there's dark. If you have a sunset scene, you have one chance to get that shot, or it's just the amount of work and time and the grind into this business. It's not easy to break in and network and constantly put yourself out there and constantly be vulnerable and constantly be rejected before a job, especially if it's just based on your gender. That's hard. And I've been there, and I absolutely love film, TV, and I've produced a couple things, and definitely I would consider some of the best successes of my life were things that I've worked on and help a director build their dream. But I just understand what they're going through and the day-to-day grind and the hardship. And I want to help in that space. I'm not working per se in the field directly anymore, but I can help in this way. And because I've been there, my passion just lies with working with these women.
So let's just
everything together.
Yeah. So since you've had this background and now you're in this other financial industry, can you just talk a little bit? Maybe you talk about it, then Megan can speak to it as well. Talk to a little bit about the there's obviously best practices in finance, personal finance, and then there's also like the bad, naughty practices of personal finance. Can you just talk a little bit about what you see that people are doing that are is setting people up for failure, and then go into maybe we can segue later or after that into what are the best practices.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a couple things to start off just with. First of all, just recognizing that as women, when it comes to like retirement planning and best practices just in general with money, women automatically have 3 challenges that face them that men don't. One is women often, we earn less than men. That's just a fact. And the most recent study done showed that the wage gap was about 18%. So women make 82 cents for every dollar a man makes. So that's challenge number 1 we face already, right out the gate. Number 2 is a lot of times women end up being caregivers. They're usually the ones who end up, if someone's sick in the hospital or a family member sick, the women of the family, friends, whatever group you're in, they're the ones who usually step in and help with that caregiving. And statistically, a lot of women, they give up close to 6 hours of their day each day for 10 years for one incident of caregiving. Sometimes another study showed that women who are caregivers, 26% of their budget goes towards the caregiving, which 26% of your salary, that's a huge amount of money being given towards someone else. So already right there, if you're a caregiver, a lot of your money could not even be going to you, but to taking care of a loved one or friend, however that looks. And then number 3, which is, I know we all know this too, but women, we live longer too. So not only are we making less and sometimes our money is going to someone we're caregiving for, but we also live longer. So we have to be very strategic in planning because of those 3 challenges. And one of the first things that I think is best practice is protecting yourself. Make sure you have that emergency savings, especially if you're self-employed. And in this business, I know that you can do a job, finish it, and then you don't get paid for 30, 60, 90 days. So for self-employed individuals, like most of you on this call, we recommend that you have 3 to 6 months worth of income saved. So that way, when you have that feast or famine, you know you have that 3 or 6 months worth of income saved. So if it's a month with not many jobs or much work, you know you have 6 months to lean on until you start working a lot. So that would be the first thing that I noticed that a lot of people don't do, because you really just want to make sure you have cash on hand. So when you're waiting for that next job or next paycheck, or your car breaks down or you need to fix something in your home, you're not just putting it on a credit card or taking out debt for it. So that would be like the first thing that I see a lot of people don't do, but it's really, really important to make sure you have that cash on hand.
Right.
What about you, Megan?
I would agree with that, but I think also another piece is a lot of people do I don't want to talk about it because I don't think I have enough yet. And so I have to go secretly create this dollar amount that I think is supposed to be acceptable before I understand how it works. And to be totally honest, there's 2 things about money that work in our favor or our disfavor, right? Time and amount. The more time we have, the less dollars we need. The less time we have, the more dollars we need. So I see a lot of people go into ostrich mode. I don't need to pay attention to this yet. in all reality, obviously late is better than never. But the sooner you start and you can have like that golden brick road and just kind of see where it goes, the knowledge of it is 90% of the game.
So just, you mean, so just going, instead of saying, oh, I'm not making enough, I'll just, not pay attention right now, but actually being cognizant of what's coming in the moment, and then being able to understand what you're working with the whole way through, rather than just like when that day comes that you have enough or whatever that enough is.
Right. Enough is never enough in our own brain. And in a lot of industries, I joke that you have to be like a squirrel, right? You have to save for the winter. But like, you have to actively know then what your budget is and things of that manner. Like, start setting those pieces up, start setting some like rules that you follow. Like, a lot of my clients really love the 60-20-20 rule, which is 60% of the money that comes in the door should be things that cost us every month: rent, utilities, mortgage, car payments. 20% should go into savings, and 20% is given to yourself. So we're never asking ourselves to save more than we're willing to give us. But you said, like, what is the naughty stuff? This gives you the ability to like save and have like the extras, right? I want to go to Starbucks. I want to get my nails done. I want to take a vacation, whatever it might be. Then you can, build for yourself, pay your bills, and have the things in life that you want by living on that structure.
Okay, thank you. Any other tidbits to talk about in terms of best practices?
I would just throw this out there that, I get it. Not everyone is goal oriented and things like that, but you really need to at least have some idea of what you want your life to look like. And you need to be specific about it. A lot of people, when I ask them, well, what do you want to accomplish in the next 3 years, whether it's personally, financially, or when do you want to buy a house? Most of the time people just say, I don't know, maybe I want to buy a house. Well, how much do you want to spend? What do you want the house to look like? What do you want the house to have? And just, if you're very aware of what you want your life to look like, be specific with your goals. I want this, this, and this. It's okay to want something. It's your money. It's your life. Do it. I think we get caught up sometimes that there's a certain way we have to live our life and do money and things like that. And there's no right or wrong answer for anyone. Everyone's unique. They have their own path, but really just making sure you understand your goals, and, they'll change, and that's okay, but just really being specific with your goals. So like I said, I mentioned, if you want to buy a house, just make sure you're specific. How many bedrooms do you want? Do you want a garage, yard, things like that? Just be specific and mindful of your goals.
Right. So when you are thinking about those things, you end up kind of defining more of the vision that you want and kind of bringing it into more, I would say bringing it into more into reality, I suppose, or more into focus so that it becomes more possible, I suppose. Would you say that to be true?
Yeah, because if you say it aloud and write it down, it's like you're affirming it. Like, okay, this is what's going to happen. And then you have someone like myself or Megan, when we ask you those questions, you can tell us, and then we'll be like, okay, we know what you want, and we will do whatever we can within our means to get you to that goal. Right. We want to help. We just need to know what you want to do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. Before we bought the house that we live in now, I remember sitting down and writing in all these like fancy colors in my little like market, different color pens, all the things that I wanted on a piece of paper. Well, a couple of years in, I found that piece of paper that after we had, I don't know how long it was before we bought the house that I had written that, but I found it and I realized that like all of the things on it were all that what we got. And the only thing I just forgot to say was like big house with skylight. Like I have a little house with no skylights, but it's everything else that I wanted was written on that piece of paper that I had thought about and forgotten about. And so I think if I would have like been more clear with like how big the house would be, maybe that would be true too. But Megan, what are your thoughts?
I think as women, we're kind of like programmed not to share, not to tell, don't be vulnerable, don't tell people we don't talk about money, right? I hear that one a lot. Oh, we don't talk about money. But I'll be honest, like it's a study that's been done that they teach you not to tell each other these things to keep you under your button, right? To keep you in line. You don't know Tom down the hall is making twice as much as you might not say anything. If you don't know that, there are these indifferences, you won't take action to make them different. So I always tell people, like, don't be afraid to talk about it. It's a lesson I had to learn all on my own. I have a business coach, and the first time I made 6 figures, she's like, you should tell the whole group. And I was like, tell the whole group how much money I made. What? But I think if we're more open and we celebrate it, it's not a brag. We work really hard for these things, right? It's not like a ostentatious thing, and we're sharing in success. Like, you should do that. Let's raise everybody up. Let's raise the bar up for everybody, right? And if we know the bar is higher, then we'll all keep working to move it forward.
So does anyone in the audience have any questions before we move into the next? Like, we have an exciting little thing that we're going to jump into in a moment. Does anyone have any questions that you just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask? Anyone? Okay. So I'm super excited about this next phase of this call. It's a little worksheet that we're going to do a little exercise that's going to help us understand our financial health. Who wants to introduce it?
I believe Megan was going to go ahead. Let me see if I can pull it up.
So we're going to do something called financial fitness. Fail thing, but it's going to let us, it's kind of like reminiscent of those old Cosmo tests we used to take back in the day to find, like what color you were and things. But this one's going to let you know what your financial fitness is. As Amanda, are you pulling it up to screen share?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Do you see my screen?
Yeah.
I see, but you might have to shrink it down because we can only see a couple of the questions.
Okay, let me do that.
So everyone, if you have a piece of paper to write on, or if you want to just take a note on your phone, or which I'm going to do, or if you have can open another document, put some answers in for yourself. These are personal answers that you're going to write. No one's going to see them, so it's not like, and I'm not going to ask you to share them if you don't want to. So, okay, go ahead. Okay, so do you want to explain the sheet a little bit, Megan? Can you see it?
Yes. So they're all true false questions. So super easy. And you're basically going to answer the true false. And then on the side, we're going to count how many trues you have. And that's going to give you a score. Because, about 52% of Americans said that like peace of mind is the top benefit to financial planning. But often people don't feel like they already have that in place.
Mm-hmm. So then could you read them out and let us answer them? Give us a couple 10 seconds to answer them.
Sure.
Yeah.
Number 1, I'm clear on how much money is coming in and how much money is going out and where I spend money each month. True or false? Okay. Number 2, true or false? If I became ill or injured and couldn't work, I know exactly how much I would receive from my workplace in disability income insurance would pay and how long I would be paid for if that's something you have. You may not even have that at this time. as a contractor.
Right. Right.
Number 3, true or false? If my car needed $1,000 in repair or my dog needed emergency surgeries, I have savings to cover unexpected expenses. Number 4, true or false? I know how much I need to save for retirement. Number 5, true or false? I know how much credit card debt I have and how much I pay each month in interest. Number 6, true or false? I know the difference between term and permanent life insurance. Number 7, true or false? I know my credit score. And number 8, true or false? I know what I want for my future, and I have a written financial plan outlining what it will take to make it happen. So go ahead and count them up for yourself. If you answered 0 to 3 yes, you're a good candidate to take some initial steps to get financially fit. If you answered 4 to 6 true, you are on the right path to being financially fit. You have made some wise choices and could benefit from some additional smart money moves. And 7 to 8 yeses, you have extremely high degree of financial security and well-being, and you're very, quote unquote, financially fit. Does anybody want to share, like, you don't have to, but does anybody want to share their scores?
I can, since we can unshare this sheet, Amanda, and I can share this. So it's so I had exactly split down the middle. I had 4 yeses and 4 trues and 4 falses. And I just like laughed at a couple because I was like, a whole, like, how I'm going to spend my retirement and like a financial plan outlining that, like, that was funny to me because I had never, I know it's not very funny, but it was funny to me because I was like, right. Like, anyway, I just thought, of course, that seems obvious that I would have that, or that I would have thought of that. But at the same time, it's just not anything that I've ever thought to sit down and do. So yeah, and then some of them, you know, I was like, ooh, good, I have that as a true. I was like, thank goodness, you know, right? But it's interesting. It was very, very interesting, the answers.
Awesome. Does that create any questions for anybody?
I have a question. So the life insurance, can you explain the difference?
Sure. So brief overview, high level, right? So there's realistically 2 types of insurance. Term insurance, it stands for term of time, which means you're going to have it for 5, 10, 20, 30 years. And you're going to pay in it like car insurance. And the only benefit we get from it is if somebody passes, and then we receive a death benefit. But while we're paying into it and we're here on this earth, we don't get anything out of it. So think of it as renting an apartment, right? Permanent insurance stands for permanent. We're going to have it forever. So if you live until you're 120, somebody's going to receive some sort of legacy. There's also a bit in it called cash value or accumulated value, which grows tax-free with a dividend that you can touch prior to anybody passing, so that you have access to at any time you need or want to dip into tax-free dollars. It is very nice. It's the difference between the two is typically the price. term insurance is very inexpensive because you can get a lot of it for a little bit of money because we're not growing anything. Whereas cash value or accumulated value, we're making contributions because we're actively growing money as well as covering a benefit for our future.
And so I've seen some insurances that will allow you to take out, you borrow against, or you get to take out the income that you get in is it in interest or?
So that's a permanent insurance, and depending on the company will depend on their dividend, but their dividend is what creates that withdrawal value.
Right. And then that dividend is something that you have to pay back or you don't pay back. It's part of your own.
It's part of your own. So you can take it in one of two ways. You could take it so that you could put it back in later as a policy loan, or you can just take the money and run. And it comes off the top. And then you still have your base amount of what they call death benefit.
So is it true that, is it true or not true that you can actually borrow against your death benefit as well and use that and repay it? Is that not how it works?
If you're borrowing against your death benefit, then you are literally like signing that over to whoever your debtor is, that portion. So like I have a client, he has technically done this. He has signed over a portion of the death benefit while he's taking a loan. When he pays off the loan, then the creditor will come off of his life insurance beneficiary. If you are just taking cash out of a policy, you're taking accumulated or cash value, which your policy has earned.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay. So I know that, did that answer your question, Julie? Yeah. I know that there are some things that you want to show us for independent contractors. There are, again, I'll just say that like the only time I was ever offered any kind of retirement package was when I was an employee, and it wasn't until becoming an independent contractor and that was I talked to, luckily, from a friend of mine who had opened a SEP IRA. So I'd like to hear what you guys are. And also, do you have a new tattoo there? Is that what's going on? Oh, okay.
I have a new tattoo and we have dogs. So when I come home, I wrap it in plastic
Right.
so that their dog hair doesn't get on it, because it can create the dander's not supposed to get in the new tattoos.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay. All right. So you want to share with me the document that you had created to just give us some ideas of all the different like things that are available to independent contractors? Talk about it a little bit.
Oh, you're muted, Amanda.
I'm muted. Thank you. Yes, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We had a couple points we wanted to mention really quickly along with the retirement and planning account. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really quickly and let Megan take it away. Well, okay. Did that work?
Yep.
All right.
So do you want to hit the next one? So we're going to talk mostly about like, how do we grow money? So as you see here, you will see pretty typical retirement savings accounts, 401k, IRA, and then the Roth options. For you guys obviously aren't going to have 401k, but you do have options for IRA and Roth. And I think sometimes people get wrapped up because IRA just stands for individual retirement account. It just means it's something that you've set up for yourself. And there's 5 or 6 different versions of an IRA. So we'll go over a little bit about those today. One of the things we said earlier is about how time can be in your favor. And this is just a quick slide about the power of compounding and basically how you can take a $6,000 Roth contribution and turn it into significantly more, because about every 7 to 10 years, you're going to be able to double your money. So if you have 20, 30, 40 years, that means you can have anywhere between 2, 3, or 4 multiplications of that money. Can you swipe? All right. So I think this is, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll get to the specifics of the accounts in just a minute.
Sure. So as you see here, you'll see about 5 buckets, right? And we like to think of them as buckets or faucets because you're going to be able to turn them on and off depending on what's happening in the world. So the first one I'll start with is the Roth, and that's probably because that's probably the most popular in this day and age, right? So the way we contribute to a Roth is, hey, we don't pay our taxes on it. We paid our taxes on it today when we got paid. We make our contribution. It grows tax-free. And when we go into retirement, it's tax-free withdrawals, right? So we love that. But I will let you know, nothing in this world is perfect. So your contribution cap is $6,000 unless you're over the age of 50. And then you get the catch-up time, which is an extra $1,000. Also, one other key point, because as independent contractors, your income can spike up. If you make over 139 as a single person or 220 as a married couple, you do not qualify to make a contribution that year. You don't need to change the dollars or move that account. You just cannot contribute for that year. On the other side of that one, you see something that says 401k or IRA. And I'll be honest, for the most of you guys, you probably would fall into the suit of utilizing something called a SEP or a simple. A SEP just stands for self-employed program. And a simple is a similar thing. It's just a longer anagram. Basically, a SEP is perfect if you're a one-woman show. If you're a one-woman show, it's great because you can contribute 25% of your income that year as a business expense. So if you've ever made a contribution before, it comes into your bank account, then you make your contribution, right? But this is considered a business expense, so not a personal contribution. Really amazing opportunity to get some money off the books and defer some taxes today and reduce our tax liability so that we can mitigate it today and tomorrow. These are both long-term buckets though, so we're really not supposed to touch them until we're 59 and a half. Otherwise, Uncle Sam is going to slap our hand and take 10%. And again, nothing's perfect in this world. So the SEP or the simple, or if you have an old 401k, if you haven't withdrawn enough money from them by the time you turn 72, Uncle Sam's going to send you a lovely letter in the mail saying you have to take out X amount of dollars every year from here on out based on his formula because he wants his cut because he hasn't gotten his taxes yet. So those are our 2 long-term, really not supposed to touch till we're 59 and a half buckets. They are on the roller coaster of the stock market. So you really would like to see, ideally, those accounts get between 7 to 11% annual average return. So across its entire lifetime, if you have it for 20 years, you want all 20 years to average out somewhere in between 7 and 11%. So on the other side here, to our right, you see a bucket that says life insurance. And that is that permanent insurance that we discussed earlier because, hey, we want to use it as the buzzword is non-market correlated asset. It just means it's not on the roller coaster. This guy's going to have steady growth. Today, the dividend is for most companies is between 3 and 5%. Northwestern Mutual has a 5% return this year, or a 5% dividend, which is nice because we can go and accumulate those dollars. And when the market's down or taxes are high, we can go pull from that bucket. I like it because you can create your down market strategy with it. On the other side, you see something called deferred annuities. And this is not something that we talk about with everybody, but because you guys are 1099 contractors, these are nice because you guys don't have pensions, right? You guys don't have the 401k payout. Deferred annuities are a great way to create guaranteed income from day one that you retire until your last day here with us. So it's a great way to create pensions for yourself. And then you'll see some other things down here called Social Security. If you believe in that, just a little tip, Social Security tax stops at about $139. If you make $200,000, they are not going to pay you in the future on $200,000. And then the last bucket you see in that lineup is investments. This is what's considered non-qualified or a brokerage account. And these are your short-term investments. But this is the last bucket you feel like, I don't have money to put anywhere else, so I'm going to put it here, kind of a thing. But as you see on the screen, they have little faucets. We're going to turn each faucet on depending on what's happening in the world. Does that create any questions for anybody?
Yeah, what do you mean, like, depending on what's happening in the world?
Sure. So like right now we have low tax brackets and an incredibly strong market, right? So it makes sense for people who are retired today to take out of their IRAs or their because they are in a low tax bracket and the market's strong. So for the most part, they're not taking any of their basis. They're taking, stuff that they've grown. Whereas if we were in a different market, say interest rates were higher, we might want to take from either the Roth or life insurance. That way we could pay lower on taxes. Otherwise, and if we were in like last March and the market had taken a nosedive, we would definitely not want to take any dollars out of the Roth or the SEP or Simple or the brokerage account because we want all that money to recover. So we would go take money out of the permanent life insurance item.
Got it. So it is all depends upon, it's all a dance, and it depends on the market and your age and when you're deciding to take money out.
Yep, it is all a dance. That is a great way to explain it. Does that create any other questions? So this screen is just going to show us the different types of retirement accounts and what they do, like whether they're tax deferred or tax free, or if you have an income cap. Those little dots are like the things where you do like this. Oh, you like your times tables. 7 times 7, 49 kind of thing. Like, so if you have a goal, like I want to save with taxes today and I want it to be long-term. Oh, set kind of thing. Any other questions about this page?
Can you share that with us?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm pretty sure you can share that by adding it to the chat. There's a little page icon that you could share with the group.
Perfect. Amanda is our PowerPoint specialist, so if she could share that page, that'd be great. And then whenever...
Okay, you want me to send it? All right, give me
right in a second, maybe after we're done with the presentation, maybe you could share it.
Absolutely. Okay. Do you want to swipe to the next page?
All right. Yeah. Come on. Okay. So this is something we wanted to briefly mention. Just if you decide you would like to work with a professional, what are some things you should look for in a professional financial advisor, planner, however that looks, and things that you should just be wary of if they try to do in the first meeting, just kind of some do's and don'ts really quickly. So one of the first things is you want to make sure that your financial planner, they're not just doing investments. They're not just doing your portfolio, your brokerage account. They're not just looking at your return on the market in your IRAs and things like that, you want someone who looks at the big picture. Okay, what are your savings goals? What is your debt management? What is your risk? What do you want to invest in? Taxes, tax efficiency. Taxes bankrupt a lot of retirement plans because people don't plan for that, to pay taxes in retirement. They think, oh, I'm done working, I don't have to pay taxes. And it's something I see over and over, that taxes, they can ruin a plan. And then also estate planning. And we're not going to get too much into that, but just making sure that your legacy and your here and now are protected through your estate planning. So make sure that they have a wide range of skill sets and they don't just focus on investing or just insurance, because all of that works together into one dance. Like Tasha said, I love that. They all work together. Number two, make sure that the person you work with, they make a long-term plan on your priorities. You are unique, and your goals and what you want to accomplish and do with your money are unique. So make sure that whoever you work with, whether it's Megan and myself or someone else, that they are really listening to you and answer the questions that you have, and that they take into account what you want to do. That they also will help you get your plan into action. They don't just say, well, here's what you can do and go off and do it on your own. They're there for you and can help you implement your plan. Especially someone that you trust for this third point, who can help you make these big financial decisions. If you trust them and they should be able to help you make those decisions, because it's their job to know nuances and things like that. So just make sure that they're there and that they will help you with some of these decisions. And also someone who meets with you regularly to make sure you're on track, and to also make adjustments as you grow and change. Your plan needs to grow and change. Now, when we say regularly, we mean maybe once a year or twice a year. This is not like every week or every month, but they need to make sure that they're making a conscious effort to reach out to you and make sure that they're meeting with you after you plan once. It's not a one and done deal. Just a couple words of caution really quickly. Like I said, I would do, be wary if anyone attempts to sell you something like a financial product in the very first meeting. Just run, unless just don't do it, because they don't really know you. They don't know who you are as a person and your goals. It takes a while to really get to know someone, especially on a financial level, and make sure they really understand your goals and circumstances and what you want to accomplish. So just be really wary of someone who wants you to get this new hot investment or something in the very first time meeting with them. Anyone who doesn't really take your goals and aspirations into consideration, if it's just like it looks like an off-the-shelf one and done for everyone type of plan, they probably didn't put that much work into it. And so it needs to be unique, because you are unique. And let's see, we have one more. Megan, I'll let you finish that. We already did the financial fitness. I'll let you do this last one, Megan. This one's my favorite.
Yeah. So big thing right now in this world, right, is self-care. And just so you know, that applies to finances all the same. When you take care of yourself and you take that time that you need, whether it's like I get up in the morning and I take an hour to myself and get myself ready for the day, or if it's like I need to veg out in front of my TV or get my nails done, whatever it might be, that applies to your finances all the same. And one small step towards progress is more than, 3 hours about thinking about that, right? They say 20 minutes of doing something is more beneficial than 20 hours of thinking of it. So just remember, like, when we're taking care of ourselves, we should take care of our finances in the same fashion.
Oh, Tasha, you're muted. And then we have our little question slide.
I was just saying, I really, really like that. 20 minutes of doing something is better than 20 minutes of just thinking, 20 hours of just thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's really thoughtful.
Thank you. I didn't create it. I borrowed it. Awesome. So we've done a lot of chatting at you for the last, 15 minutes or so. Did any of this create any questions for you ladies?
I have a question. The life insurance, the term versus the permanent, with obviously the dividends, it sounds like it's more profitable, but what can you give a little example as to why you'd want to pick one over the other?
It's really going to be stage of life. And there's probably going to be a stage of life where you maybe have both. So if you're younger, have a young family, have mortgage, have debt, you probably need a nice big chunk of term insurance, because we're providing for these people if something happens to us. And we probably need it to be cost effective if we have debt and young children, right? As we age, we typically need less benefit. Like, we're not worried about making sure the kids have food on the table or putting them through college or paying down a mortgage. At this point, we're really thinking about our partner and what we want them to have. And we're probably in a place where it makes more sense to create another bucket of money. But I personally have both. I have term insurance because I went to Penn State, so I had a nice chunk of student debt. I own a home. I'm the primary breadwinner in my home, and we are suckers for sad stories. So we have 6 dogs, and that's a lot of dog food. So I have a little bit of that, but I also know, like, the permanent grows, and I want that asset in the future, so I contribute to both.
So,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tasha.
I was just let me see if I can say this the way, it's not savory to say it like this, but the way I was sort of understanding term is that if you are, you're ensuring that whoever it precedes you, if you pass, will have enough money to pay off your mortgage and to pay your debt and to pay for the dog food and to pay for all of those things. And that's really the goal of that term.
Yes.
But the lifetime, what's it called again? Sorry.
Permanent.
The permanent is more of a wealth building in the sense that what you're contributing to it is earning you dividends, and you can take out the cash later on when you have enough of it to keep, and you can also borrow against the principal and pay it back if you need to, although there's penalties for that, I think. And
there's not penalties for that. There are penalties if you take the loan from like a 401k and things like that, but there's not a penalty on a policy, what is called a policy loan. But yes, my term is totally just like a CYB, covering my butt. If something happens to me, I want them to have the same lifestyle I would have provided. And the permanent is an asset that I'm growing.
And the permanent also includes the death benefit along with the other things, right?
Yes.
Right. And one thing I do want to mention is the reason term exists is because it locks in your insurability. In order to get any sort of life insurance, you have to be in good health. And they realized that permanent insurance was just way too expensive for young people like myself who are just getting started and don't have many assets. And then when people would go to get life insurance, it would be too late. They would be in their 50s or 60s. Something medically has gone wrong. So they created it just to help people so they can lock in their insurability. And then with most companies, you can convert it to permanent, your term to permanent without going through underwriting. So it was a way for people to lock in their insurability so that no matter what happened to their health, they were covered.
Oh, I didn't know that you could convert it to.
Yes, you can.
It depends on the company.
Mm-hmm.
Our company specifically does do a conversion. And I know there are a handful of others, but not all do, because not all offer a permanent option. And some just don't offer the conversion. It just depends on company to company.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have your own life insurance policies that you guys sell through your company. because my next question was, stocks, I would tell you Amazon, Apple, life insurance policies, what would be the top three? Obviously, you have to include yourself.
Well, even if I didn't work for Northwestern Mutual, we would be in the top, 3 or 4. They have one of the best dividends, low cost. But then alongside of us, you would see New York Life, Guardian, and Mass Mutual. Those are going to be your 4 big guys that do it really, really well. And I will tell you, like, if you go outside of those 4, you're not going to see as good of a return. Just because a company offers it does not mean it's going to be a high performing version of it. Like, technically, like, no shade, but State Farm sells permanent insurance and it does not get any kind of dividend. Because they have really high costs, because they're obviously paying out for when people's homes have issues and they have car accidents. And because they do both, it affects their dividend.
Okay. So, and you said you give a big dividend. What is your guys' dividend?
It's 5%. Last year we paid out $6.4 billion in dividends.
Does everyone know what a dividend is?
Yeah, explain that, because maybe somebody doesn't understand.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we're a mutual company, which means we don't have stockholders that we pay, which means all the money that we take and invest in our general account and build and create a profit, all that profit gets paid down to our policy owners because we don't have stockholders to pay out first. So any profit that Northwestern Mutual makes trickles down and pays down to all of our policy owners.
And that's what a dividend is.
And is Guardian or New York Life or Mass Mutual have a higher dividend that they pay out?
Not net.
Hey, Amanda, would you mind turning off the screen, stop screen sharing so we could see
Yes.
your lovely faces?
Sorry.
Not net. We have a lower expense than a lot of those guys, but we're all very close, and you'll see, Guardian, New York, and Northwestern Mutual kind of pop in between the top 3 year after year. This year we did really well in our investments. So, to pay out $6.4 billion in dividends that's a big number.
Okay, great. That was really helpful. Thank you.
So how can anyone get in touch with you, ladies, for a follow-up call?
I'm gonna share my screen again because we have our contact information in case anyone wants to write it down, or would you rather us put it in the chat?
Yeah, can you put it in the chat, and that way people can, and then we'll end on that when we're going to wrap this up really quickly. We're going over a few moments, and I hope everyone can just hang in with us just a little bit longer. I think it's a super important conversation. I've learned a lot. Thank you so much for your presentation. I've never seen it laid out like that. I've never really thought about it in those terms. And so this is exactly amazing why I wanted to have this workshop. And so thank you both very much for everything. Anybody else have anything to add to that?
Just thank you so much. I loved how you presented everything, and I think it's really important to empower women when it comes to finances. So that was really brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the information.
Absolutely.
Of course. Love doing this. All right. I'm getting the rest of my information in there. Megan's is in there. Okay.
Got it.
Oh, could you also share the PowerPoint deck before we forget?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Let's see.
And while you're doing that, I just want to give a shout out to our Next events that are coming up next week is a social for our members, virtual social on wonder.me. And then in October, we're going to have a Conversations and Connections event. That date is October 20th. Is that right? Wednesday, October 20th. And then, so that registration will open up fairly soon. And then we're going to have another event in December for the fair use, on fair use, a discussion on fair use with a gentleman from Irvine and UC Irvine. And I'm excited for all of these events to happen. So keep an eye out on wifsba.org, WIFSFBA.org for more event information. And here we go. So let's see. Any other comments before we start to wrap this up? Amanda and Megan, any closing comments?
I was just going to say, you know, you all can do this, and we're more than happy to help. We put our information in the chat if you have further questions. We recognize, like Megan said, you know, a lot of people don't like to talk about money. So if you had questions, feel free to email us and we can answer those privately in a one-on-one, just so they're not here for the whole room. But we just want to say thank you again for hosting us. This is just so exciting to be able to do things like this and help women supporting women. I'm just really excited, so happy to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just love that there's a space for you guys where, you know, Women in Film gives you a space to connect with one another. Because I feel like not only do we want to connect with other women outside of our own industry, but connecting with women in our industry is incredible. Like Amanda and I are not in the same office. We are states away from one another. But the fact that we could connect and do this with you ladies is just, it makes you feel great. And I'm so glad I get to be a part of it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I want to thank Jessica for joining us and Gretchen for being here with us tonight. Thank you again. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So much.
Yeah,
It was
we
so
appreciate
informative.
Okay, bye, ladies.
Thank you.